On a quiet August day in 1966, the bodies were discovered on a hill near Rio de Janeiro. The scene was strange, almost theatrical. The men lay side by side, dressed in formal suits and waterproof coats. Over their eyes were peculiar lead masks, the kind you'd never expect to find in a place like this. They looked homemade, like the shell of a welder's visor. But there was no welding equipment around. No tools, no wires, no machines. Just two men, dead on the slope of Morro do Ventum. Their names were Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana. Both were television technicians from Campos das Goitacazes, a city a few hours away. They had left home on August 17th. They told family they needed to buy work supplies, but they packed oddly. Raincoats, suits, and a large amount of cash. What were they preparing for? The journey took them by bus to Niterói. They arrived in the afternoon. Witnesses said they bought bottled water. They also purchased a waterproof jacket then. They went up the hill. Hours passed, and then days. When they didn't return, families grew worried. A young boy searching for a kite stumbled upon the bodies. That's how the mystery began. Investigators found a small notebook with the men. It contained cryptic instructions. 1630 be at the specified location, 1830 ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals, await signal mask. What capsules? What signal? And why the lead masks? There were no signs of violence, no bullet wounds, no stab marks, no struggle. Their belongings were intact. Money, receipts, watches, nothing was taken. An autopsy was performed, but no cause of death could be determined. The bodies were to decompose for toxicology, so we don't know what was in the capsules, if any were taken at all. The masks blocked light, not air. Perhaps they were used to shield from radiation or blinding vision. Theories began to swirl. Some said it was a suicide pact. Others whispered about cult rituals. UFO believers offered another theory. The men had tried to contact extraterrestrials, that the instructions were for a cosmic meeting. Why else would they need masks to protect from a signal? The story captured the public imagination. Journalists descended on the hill. Sensational. Headlines followed. The mystery of the lead masks, death on the hill. But little progress was made. No new evidence came forward. No witnesses remembered strange lights or odd sounds. The notebook remained the key clue, but its language defied easy translation, cryptic, coded, or simply personal shorthand. One theory held that they were members of a spiritual group, practicing rituals to elevate consciousness. The masks and that view shielded them from divine radiance, or helped them survive a temporary crossing into another realm, but no group ever came forward. No one claimed them as members. Their families were left with questions. Who were they meeting that day? What message did they await? Was it human or something else? Even the weather offered no clues. No storms, no strange atmospheric events, just a quiet winter's afternoon. Some wondered if a third person had been with them, someone who brought the capsules, or gave final instructions, but if so, that person vanished completely. The police eventually closed the case. Cause of death, undetermined, motive, unknown, and so the legend grew. Books were written. Documentaries aired late at night, and the lead masks became a symbol of death wrapped in silence, of questions without answers. The hill is still there. Morro do Ventum remains, quiet, windswept, as if holding its breath, waiting for someone to return, or for the signal to finally come. They say history repeats itself, but what about the parts we forgot? Welcome to Echoes of History, the channel where we dig up the dusty corners of the past to uncover the weird, the wild, and the wait, what? Stories they didn't teach you in school. Grab your curiosity, and maybe a cup of tea, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see the world. The hill was known as Morro do Ventum, nestled in Niterói, just across the bay from Rio de Janeiro. It wasn't a place known for mysteries until that day in August 1966. A young boy chasing a kite discovered the bodies first, lying side by side. The two men seemed oddly at peace, but their outfits were bizarre, formal suits and waterproof coats. On their faces were strange lead masks, like welding goggles. Not protective gear you'd wear hiking a hill. No signs of trauma, blood, or struggle. Just two men, dead without explanation. The police were baffled from the start. Their identities were confirmed as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana. They were friends from Campos das Goitacazes, a small city far to the north. Both worked as electronic technicians. Neither had any known enemies, debts, or dangerous hobbies. The lead masks were homemade, carefully cut to fit the face. But why? An autopsy was performed. The bodies had no visible injuries. Toxicology reports were inconclusive. There was a delay in testing, which meant evidence could have degraded. No clear answer emerged. Police found a small notebook with cryptic instructions. 1630 be at the determined location. 1830 ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals, weight signal mask. The phrasing was clumsy, almost mechanical. It suggested they had taken some substance, but there were no containers, pills, or glasses at the scene. Investigators were left chasing shadows. The men had purchased the lead sheets days before. They told friends they needed them for scientific experiments. That wasn't strange, given their profession. But their trip to Niterói was unannounced. They took a bus and bought waterproof coats and a bottle of water along the way. Their behavior was deliberate, not like men planning to disappear, nor like men expecting to die. One hotel worker recalled them seeming nervous. They checked in briefly, but left soon after. Another shopkeeper said they looked at their watches repeatedly, as if counting down to something. Were they meeting someone, following strange instructions from a third party? Or was it a private ritual between them? Some speculated they were part of a spiritualist group. Brazil had many such circles blending science and mysticism, particularly among amateur radio technicians and hobbyist inventors. A belief in contacting spirits using electricity was not uncommon. The masks, then, might have been for protection against radiation or spiritual energy. The cryptic note could be seen as a ritual plan, ingesting capsules to induce a trance, waiting for a signal from beyond. But no one came. The signal never arrived, or perhaps it did. And what happened next ended in silence. Others leaned toward a more sinister theory. What if they were duped, convinced by someone promising contact with other worlds, or lured by a false hope of transcendence, and left alone on the hill with failed instructions? The lack of wounds still haunted the investigation. No bruises, cuts, or defensive marks, just healthy men, dead by unknown means. The absence of vomit or residue puzzled pathologists if they were poisoned. The method left no trace in time. The case grew cold, but the mystery only deepened. Reporters gave it a name: the lead masks case. Newspapers spun tales of science, suicide, and the supernatural. Locals whispered about UFOs. Some claimed strange lights had been seen over the hill that week. A few even believed the men had succeeded, that they made contact with something beyond, and their bodies were just husks left behind. It was the 1960s, an era full of curiosity and fear. Space travel was real. So was Cold War paranoia. Anything seemed possible, including mysterious deaths atop a hill in Brazil. Decades later, the site remains a point of pilgrimage. Curious visitors hike to where the bodies were found. Some leave flowers, others leave questions. What could ordinary men have believed so strongly? What dream were they chasing up that lonely hill? And did they really think they'd return? The lead masks, now corroded with time, remain locked in police archives, as silent as the lips that once wore them. Time has not revealed the answers, only deepened the mystery. Friends of the men still remember them as kind, curious, and gentle. Not reckless, not fanatics, just two men drawn to something they couldn't explain, perhaps trying to find proof of the beyond, or meaning in a world that offered too little. They left behind more questions than answers, and a story that refuses to fade, a puzzle with lead for clues and silence for truth. The police now faced an unusual mystery. There were no wounds, no signs of struggle. The men had simply lain down and died. Toxicology reports were ordered if they'd taken drugs. Something should show up, but Brazil's labs in 1966 had limitations. Weeks passed. The results came back inconclusive. No common poisons were found in their systems. Their internal organs were decomposed, making further analysis difficult. Their stomach contents provided no answers. Investigators turned to the items found with them. The notebook, in particular, drew attention. It contained a strange message: 1630 be at the specified location, 1830 ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for mask signal. The phrase made little sense. What were the capsules? Was it a suicide pact? An experiment gone wrong? Or something else entirely? Police tried to find the origin of the notebook. It had no fingerprints other than the two men. The handwriting was confirmed to be theirs. Attention shifted to the spiritualist group. Miguel and Manuel had been involved in fringe science. They were part of a circle interested in psychic phenomena. The group believed in contacting other realms. They conducted seances and experiments, sometimes using unusual tools and techniques. One theory emerged: they were trying to contact spirits or beings from another dimension. Perhaps the masks were to protect them during the process. Lead, after all, blocks radiation in their minds. Perhaps it could shield from energy or protect against unseen forces. A local professor weighed in. He suggested the men were experimenting with consciousness, trying to reach altered states. The capsules, he theorized, were hallucinogens. The timing in the notebook supported that. 1830. Ingestion, followed by waiting. The mask might signal the beginning of the experience, a kind of ritual, scientific or spiritual. But something went wrong. Perhaps the dosage was fatal, or the substance was toxic. No one could confirm it. The rain that fell after their deaths had washed away clues. The delay in recovering the bodies hindered analysis. The evidence was fading fast. Still, journalists dug deeper. They interviewed friends, family, fellow technicians. No one had clear answers, but more odd. Details emerged. Miguel had purchased a waterproof coat shortly before his death. Even though the forecast was dry, they both carried towels, despite the weather, and an empty water bottle. as if preparing for something specific. Perhaps they expected to sweat or cleanse. Some believed they were following instructions from an outside source, a higher intelligence, or a delusional voice. The idea of a secret society surfaced, a group of men practicing forbidden science, sharing knowledge in codes and rituals, but no other members were ever identified. If there were more, they stayed silent or vanished into anonymity. The masks became a symbol, not just of death, but of mystery. They were simple, handmade, cut from lead sheets, shaped to cover the eyes, with no holes to see through, almost like blindfolds, or visors for a different kind of vision. Perhaps they believed they'd see another world or be seen by it, protected in their final moment, waiting for a sign that never came. Their bodies were buried, their families mourned, but the questions refused to die. People returned to Vintom Hill, hoping to feel something or understand what had happened there, but the hill remained silent. The trees gave no answers. Only the wind spoke soft and indifferent. Over the years, the case took on legend. Theories grew wilder. UFOs, time travel, government experiments, but no proof emerged. Only the masks, only the hill, and to men who walked into a mystery with faith, fear, or perhaps hope, and never walked back out. In the days after the burial, the story refused to fade. Journalists, skeptics, spiritualists all descended on Niterói. The site on Morro do Vintom became a strange kind of shrine. Some brought flowers, others brought dowsing rods, cameras, or Ouija boards. Everyone brought questions. Theories multiplied like wildfire. One popular idea was that the men were trying to contact extraterrestrials. The lead masks, some said, were for protection from radiation or cosmic light. Others whispered about a secret society, an underground group of spiritual scientists, testing the limits of perception. Some linked them to esoteric Brazilian cults or forgotten European mystics, but the truth remained out of reach. The masks didn't explain their deaths, and the pills they reportedly took had vanished if they existed at all. One man claimed he saw a bright light over the hill that night. Another said he heard voices chanting. None of it could be confirmed. The hill, once ordinary, now pulsed with myth. Children dared each other to climb it after dark. Local dogs avoided it entirely. The coroner's report only deepened the fog. It listed unknown causes for both deaths, no evidence of violence, poison, or illness. Their organs had decayed too much to test for drugs. The heat had erased clues. All that remained were fragments and mystery. Back at the electrical shop, life moved on. The employees spoke less about the incident with each passing week, but something haunted them, even in silence. A young apprentice found Miguel's notebook. It was filled with numbers, formulas, symbols. No one could make sense of it. Some pages were missing. Others had been scribbled out violently, as if he'd thought twice about what he wrote. One page showed a diagram to stick figures under a dome. Waves or beams passed over their heads. Next to it, just 3 words, test 1 complete. Below that, awaiting contact. The handwriting matched Miguel's. It was turned over to the police, but no follow-up was ever made public. The document was quietly filed away. Meanwhile, Manuel's family fell into grief. His sister said he'd become distant before his death, obsessed with energy fields and spirit planes. He stopped eating meals with the family, spoke in fragments, kept talking about the mission. Miguel's brother mentioned a strange visitor weeks before, a man in a dark suit who refused to give his name. They talked privately for an hour. Afterward, Miguel seemed agitated. He burned several papers in the backyard, then asked his brother, "Would you follow me even into the unknown?" He never explained, just packed his bag and left for Niterói. That was the last time they saw him alive. A spiritualist group in Rio contacted the police. They claimed the men had attended one of their seances. They were trying to reach a higher frequency. The lead masks were to protect against spiritual radiation. The capsule was part of a ritual. The death, they said, was not a failure, it was transformation. The authorities didn't know what to do with that. It didn't explain why they died alone, why no one helped them, or why they believed they would return. The idea of intentional death sacrifice for enlightenment began to circulate. Maybe they wanted to escape this world, to glimpse the next. But if so, why so much secrecy? Why the vague note? Why the masks? The more people learned, the less they understood. It became less a case and more a parable, a story with no clear beginning and no end. The hillside grew over. Grass covered the spot where they lay. Time, too, tried to erase them, but the story stayed. In whispers and documentaries, in speculative books and podcasts, and in the minds of those who asked, what did they believe they were doing? And did they succeed? Because maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was a doorway to somewhere we cannot follow. The masks weren't just protection, they were ritual, intention, to shield the eyes from what they were not meant to see, or perhaps to see what no one else ever has, and never will again, because some answers, it seems, are never meant to be uncovered.
The media caught wind of the strange case quickly. Newspapers splashed eerie headlines across front pages. Mystery on Hill. One read, "Men in lead masks baffle police." Another proclaimed. The public was both disturbed and intrigued. It felt like something out of a science fiction novel. But these were real men, and they were truly dead. Reporters swarmed the hill where the bodies were found. Locals shared rumors and theories freely. Some said they had seen lights in the sky that night. Others whispered about alien experiments. And some, more practically, wondered if it was a ritual gone wrong. Police, meanwhile, were running in circles. The investigation had no clear direction. The lead masks couldn't be explained. No one else in town had seen anything like them. The notes in their pockets deepened the mystery. Be at the place at 16:30, take capsules after the effect, protect metals, wait for mass signal. The wording was strange, as if it had been translated from another language, or as if it were code. What did mask signal mean? And what were they expecting the capsules to do? Toxicology tests were delayed due to bureaucratic issues. By the time testing was done, the bodies were too decomposed. No one could determine if they had taken drugs at all. Their stomachs held no obvious toxins, no alcohol, no signs of poisoning. The autopsy was inconclusive. One theory suggested they had taken psychedelic substances, that perhaps they believed the lead masks would protect them during a spiritual vision or a meeting with another plane of existence. A former colleague of theirs claimed they were trying to contact spirit or even beings from another planet. The men were said to have been interested in spiritualism, particularly scientific spiritualism, a niche philosophy at the time. They read books on telepathy, astral projection, and interdimensional contact. Their home was full of esoteric literature, and their notes showed patterns of planning. This wasn't random, it had been organized. But organized for what purpose? Some said they were part of a secret society, an underground group exploring the limits of human consciousness. Others said they were duped by someone smarter, that someone had convinced them to conduct the ritual, promising revelation, transcendence, and then vanished. The police looked for such a person but found no trace. The idea of foul play couldn't be ruled out, but there were no signs of struggle, no wounds, no trauma. Just two men lying peacefully with masks on. One had his coat folded under his head like a pillow. Their watches had stopped at nearly the same time, as if synchronized. But with no signs of alarm or distress, they had died quietly, as if they expected it or accepted it. Some questioned if this was a form of suicide, but it lacked the desperation or messiness often associated with it. This was something else, ritualistic, deliberate. The lead masks remained the most puzzling element. They were not helmets G-shaped to cover the eyes. No breathing holes, no straps. They weren't for protection in any conventional sense, perhaps symbolic or meant to shield from non-physical forces. Their weight and handmade nature suggested careful crafting and intent. The hills had never seen a mystery like this before. Nor would they again. The case gained international attention. Journalists from Europe and North America took note, but no new answers emerged. Just more speculation. The lead masks case became a fixture of conspiracy lore, a modern myth anchored in real tragedy. The families of the men never got closure, just silence and questions. Their names were buried beneath layers of mystery. But they had once been people with hopes and beliefs, men chasing something they thought was worth it. Whether it was truth, transcendence, or illusion, we'll never know. Their story lives on in fragments, in yellowed newspaper clippings, in photographs of a hillside marked by confusion, and in the public's imagination, a tale too strange to be fiction, too incomplete to be fact. It lingers in the shadows of history, refusing to be explained, just like the lead masks themselves, heavy, mute, and waited for someone to understand what they were trying to see, or perhaps what they were trying to escape. But the hill tells no secrets, and the silence of the dead is unwavering. We are left only with questions and two masks pointed toward the unknown.
That's it for today's Forgotten Tale. If this story made you raise an eyebrow, or to don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that dusty little bell so you never miss another echo from the past. Drop it in the comments. We're always listening for new echoes. Got a weird bit of history you think we should cover? Until next time, keep your curiosity loud and your history weird. That's it for today's Forgotten Tale. If this story made you